You are standing in an empty house. Nobody else is home. The lights are off in the next room, and for no reason at all, the hair on your arms rises. You turn around. There is nothing there, but the feeling does not go away. Something in you insists that you are not alone, even when every part of your logical mind knows that you are. This feeling has a name, and it is older than language itself. Tonight, you're going to find out where it came from and why it still lives inside you. Most people explain this feeling away. They call it imagination. They call it too many horror movies, too much coffee, too little sleep. And on the surface, that explanation feels reasonable. Your brain is just misfiring, right? A random glitch, nothing more. But that explanation falls apart the moment you look closer, because this feeling does not happen randomly. It happens in specific places. Dark hallways, empty parking lots at night, the moment you close your laptop in a quiet room, the second you step into a basement alone. If this were pure imagination, it would strike anywhere, at any time, for no particular reason. Instead, it follows a pattern, and patterns are never accidents. Patterns are evidence of a system working exactly as it was built to work. So what is that system, and why does your mind still run it, thousands of years after the danger it was built for has mostly disappeared? Consider how oddly specific this feeling actually is. It rarely appears when you are surrounded by people in a bright, crowded room. It almost never appears while you are focused on a task, deep in conversation, or laughing with a friend. It waits for stillness. It waits for silence. It waits for the exact moment your surroundings become uncertain, and then it arrives, uninvited, whispering that something might be near. That specificity is the first clue that this is not randomness at all. It is a mechanism, quietly doing its job. To understand this, you have to travel back further than you think. Not centuries, not even thousands of years. You have to go back millions of years, to a time before your ancestors were even fully human, when the world was not a comfortable place to stand still in. Imagine one of your ancestors alone at dusk on an open plain in East Africa. No walls, no locked doors, no streetlights, just grass, shadow, and the fading edge of the sun. Around them, predators are waking up. Big cats that can move in near silence. Animals built by evolution to be excellent at one thing, staying hidden until the last possible second. For that ancestor, the ability to notice an unseen threat before it revealed itself was not a curiosity. It was the difference between having children who survived and having no descendants at all. And here is the part that matters most. Waiting for certain proof was too dangerous. By the time your ancestor could clearly see the lion's eyes in the grass, it was often already too late. So evolution did something clever and a little bit terrifying. It built a system that did not wait for proof. It built a system that reacted first and asked questions later. This system lives in a small almond-shaped part of your brain called the amygdala. Think of it less like a librarian, calmly filing away accurate memories, and more like a smoke alarm bolted to the wall of your mind. A smoke alarm does not analyze whether a fire is truly dangerous before it screams. It reacts to smoke immediately because a few seconds of delay could mean the difference between escape and disaster. Your amygdala works the same way. It does not wait for certainty. It reacts to uncertainty itself. This is where the feeling of being watched actually comes from. Your eyes and ears are constantly sending your brain low-level signals, most of which never reach your conscious mind at all. A faint shift in air pressure from a closing door 2 rooms away. A shadow that moved slightly wrong at the edge of your vision. A sound just below the threshold your conscious brain considers worth mentioning. Your amygdala catches these signals before you do. And when it cannot confidently label them as safe, it does not stay silent. It sounds the alarm. That alarm feels less like a thought and more like a sensation crawling up the back of your neck. This happens faster than you might expect. Signals about potential danger can reach the amygdala and trigger a bodily response before the more analytical parts of your brain have even finished processing what you saw or heard. In other words, your body can start reacting to a threat before your conscious mind has any idea a threat might exist. That is why the feeling of being watched so often arrives without a clear cause attached to it. The cause was there. It was simply processed by a part of your brain that does not bother explaining itself. It only warns you and lets the explaining happen afterward, if it happens at all. Here is the detail almost nobody realizes. That feeling is not your brain telling you something is definitely there. It is your brain telling you it cannot yet prove that nothing is there. And to an ancient survival system built inside an unpredictable world, those two situations were treated as equally dangerous. A false alarm cost your ancestor a few wasted seconds of tension. A missed real threat could cost everything. When the two outcomes are that unequal, evolution does not build a cautious system. It builds a paranoid one, because paranoid systems keep more descendants alive. For thousands of generations, this system worked exactly as intended. Ancestors who felt an eerie chill in unfamiliar darkness were the ones who paused, who checked their surroundings, who stayed alert just long enough to survive. Ancestors who ignored that chill sometimes did not get a second chance to learn from the mistake. Over time, the sensitive alarm system did not fade away. It got passed down generation after generation, embedded so deeply that you were born with it already installed. But something changed. The world your ancestors were built for is almost entirely gone. Most of you reading this will never stand alone on an open plain at dusk, listening for a predator in the grass. Your danger, statistically, is nowhere near what theirs was, and yet the alarm system inside you did not get the memo. It still runs on ancient rules, in a modern world that rarely needs them. This is where the story takes its strangest turn. Because your brain, without meaning to, is still on the lookout for exactly one kind of threat above all others. Another living thing, watching you, without your knowledge. Researchers who study attention have found something remarkable. Human beings are unusually fast and unusually accurate at detecting when another set of eyes is aimed at them, even in the smallest possible glimpse, even from the corner of a photograph. In laboratory experiments, people can pick out a pair of eyes staring directly at them within a crowd of averted gazes faster than they can identify almost any other visual pattern. Some scientists believe this ability, sometimes called gaze detection, was so important for survival that it became one of the most finely tuned skills in the entire human brain. Being looked at by a predator or by a rival human group meant something. It meant you had already been noticed, and being noticed was often the first step toward danger. Notice, too, what makes human eyes so easy to read compared to almost any other animal on the planet. Your eyes have a large patch of visible white surrounding the colored center, something most other species do not share. Many researchers believe this feature evolved precisely because being able to tell where another person was looking, from a distance, in dim light, gave your ancestors a survival advantage. If you could tell someone was staring at you before they moved, you had more time to react. The same trait that helps a mother notice where her child is looking, or helps a hunting group silently coordinate with a glance, is the trait that makes the idea of an unseen watcher feel so unsettling in the dark. You are exquisitely built to detect the gaze of others, and when your surroundings offer just enough ambiguity, your brain fills the gap with the one possibility it is most sensitive to. So your brain did not just learn to notice danger, it learned to specifically notice the feeling of being seen. And once that circuit exists, it does not require an actual set of eyes to activate. It only requires the possibility of eyes. A dark window, an unlit room, a hallway where the shadows do not fully explain themselves. Your ancient alarm system cannot always tell the difference between an unlikely possibility and a present danger, so to stay safe, it treats them the same way. There is another layer hiding underneath this one, and it has less to do with predators and more to do with people. For most of human history, survival did not just depend on avoiding lions. It depended on staying connected to your group. A human alone, cut off from the tribe, lost far more than company. They lost extra eyes to watch for danger while they slept. They lost hands to help gather food during a bad season. They lost the simple life-saving fact that someone would notice if they did not return. Humans who were isolated from their tribe faced a brutal reality. No protection, no shared food, no one to notice if they went missing. Loneliness itself became a kind of danger signal, wired directly into the same ancient alarm system that watched for predators in the grass. Psychologists who study loneliness have noticed something that echoes this old survival logic. prolonged isolation does not simply feel emotionally unpleasant. It appears to put the body into a state resembling mild chronic alertness, as though some part of the nervous system registers being alone the way it once registered being exposed and unprotected. Some researchers describe this as an ancient alarm bell for social safety, distinct from the alarm for physical danger, but running through many of the same ancient circuits in the brain. This means the feeling of being watched while alone may be doing two jobs at once. Part of it is scanning for physical threats hidden in shadow, but another part may be an old social alarm, quietly reminding you that isolation itself was once one of the most dangerous states a human being could be in. Your body, in its own strange way, may still be nudging you back toward other people, the same way it once did for ancestors who needed their group to survive the night. It is worth sitting with that idea for a moment. The unease you feel standing alone in a quiet house may not simply be your brain looking for a stranger in the shadows. It may also be your brain quietly registering that you have, for the moment, stepped outside the protective circle your ancestors could never safely leave. Think about how this shows up in your life today. The uneasy feeling when you walk to your car through an empty garage. The instinct to turn on every light the moment you enter a dark house. The way total silence can feel louder and more unsettling than actual noise. The quick glance over your shoulder on an empty street, even when nothing about the street has objectively changed. The reluctance to look directly into a dark room before switching on the light, as though some part of you wants to give whatever might be there a chance to reveal itself first. Notice, too, how this feeling changes depending on where you are, not just whether you are alone. A quiet forest at night can feel calm if you grew up walking through it, and terrifying if you did not. An unfamiliar apartment can feel more unsettling on the first night than your own bedroom ever does, even though your own bedroom is, statistically, no safer. Familiarity does something important here. It gives your ancient alarm system a library of expected sounds and shadows to compare against. When everything matches what it expects, the alarm stays quiet. When something falls outside that library, even something as small as an unfamiliar creak in an unfamiliar house, the system treats it as worth investigating. This is not weakness. It is not your imagination malfunctioning. It is a several million-year-old survival algorithm, still faithfully running in the background of a brain built long before modern safety existed, doing exactly the job it was built to do. And here is the part that changes how you see the entire experience. This feeling is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that your ancestors were remarkably good at staying alive. Every single person who ever felt that chill down their spine, checked behind them, and lived to have children, passed a small piece of that instinct forward. You are not imagining a false alarm. You are carrying a working alarm system, inherited across an unbroken chain of survivors that stretches back long before recorded history began. The next time you are alone, and that strange sensation creeps up your neck for no visible reason, you will understand what is actually happening. You are not broken. You are not overreacting. You are hearing the echo of every ancestor who ever paused in the dark, listened carefully, and decided it was safer to look twice. That whisper in the back of your mind is not a flaw in your design. It is proof of your design, you working exactly as it was built to. Every time you feel watched in an empty room, you are not alone in the way you think. You are standing at the end of an unbroken line of humans whose caution kept them alive long enough to become your ancestors, and their instinct, quietly, is still standing guard inside you.